And so Pat, I see you first on my screen. Would it be okay for you to go ahead and start first?
See, this is the problem with having a last name that begins with A. See, I lived a life of first row,
Yes.
first seat throughout my schooling. And here I see it doesn't end. Anyway, Pat Ackerman, Children's Education Foundation, which sponsors Indeed We Code. I believe the question was our expectations of the new administration. Was that the question? Was that the question?
It was.
The expectations of the new administration? I hope that the new administration will be responsive to hearing new voices that aren't normally heard from with regard to what needs to happen. And while I have a great interest in what they want to do, I'm much more concerned about what we want to do, because we too have the problem of not listening to voices or not inviting voices that we don't normally hear from.
Right. Dr. Ackerman, thank you so much. That's wonderful. Hey, Jan, you are next on my screen. Is it okay for you to go ahead?
Sure. Let me, I don't know if you can see me. I've got my mouth full.
There you are.
But thanks so much. I'm Jan Morrison from Ties. Living on the east side, and blustery as it is and gorgeous. I'm loving it. I do care, and I've spent a lot of time the last 3 months, very fortunately, on the Biden science policy team to create the policy for day one and for the first 100 days. And I think what I really am hoping for Northeast Ohio, for our children and for the nation, but really centered on Ohio, is a bit what Patricia said. It's new voices and the idea that there is voice, and there's voice from the field, and that that this administration has to, what I hope, stop talking to itself and really start to think and very deeply about how they elicit the voices from the field on a consistent basis, so that decisions made are real for the ground and for the field, and not that we scramble to meet what their vision is. And I think that the way the policy is set up, if they actually execute on this, it's a beautiful thing. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Thanks.
Dan, thank you so much. Kristen, I see you next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Antosh. I'm a new face here. I'm actually a blogger with Momgineering the Future. I work a lot with the Great Lakes Science Center. I blog with them. I also blog with Northeast Ohio Parent. And so this is my first meeting. So as far as what my expectations are for the upcoming organization, I don't know if I feel comfortable saying those at this point. But the purpose of my blog, at least, which I think aligns similar to what your visions are for children, is that I want all children to have the opportunity to embrace their natural curiosity and to have those opportunities. So Alyssa invited me to this meeting to come by because I wanted to learn more about your organization. So nice to meet everyone.
Kristen, welcome. So glad that you're here. Thank you so much. Becky, I see you next. You know what? I think you may be having microphone challenge, or is it me? You are. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Becky will,
Okay,
I'm sure, get that figured out, and we'll hear from her.
We've got e-learning and 2 people working from home today. So trying to be respectful. I'm Becky Rinaldo with the Cuyahoga County Public Libraries. And I think, and this is Eleanor, I think that maybe beyond STEM a little bit, my hope is that this administration kind of refocuses and focuses on access for everybody. I think that this current, the last 6-9 months, however long it's been, has really made clear the inequities in access for everybody, specifically around connectivity in the internet, but also around access to everything that entails. And so I hope that that's something that we really, I think there's momentum around that and making access a more of a priority.
Thank you, Becky. And Dianisi, I don't think, I don't recognize your face. I mean, I may have mispronounced your name. So help us out, please.
So I'm Dianisi Alaprantis. Thanks so much for having me. So I was actually invited by Melanie Joseph. She helps work on a group that I'm working with, Greater Than Math. And yeah, I guess if I were to think about what I would hope, I guess a hope for the new administration is, I hope we take the opportunity to make a big investment in our kids through our schools and through just getting kids exposed and excited about learning, just echoing a lot of things people have already said. But, I really hope that there's a big investment made and a big, conscious effort made to try to improve some kids' outcomes and get them exposed to exciting stuff. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And so glad that you're here. Karen.
Hi, everybody. I apologize for if there's any background noise. I am running aftercare right now for our Learning Lab program as well. So I am Karen from the Great Lakes Science Center. And as far as my hopes for the new administration, I really am hoping that this administration, which I think is already starting to go there, is promoting more unity by promoting groups to work together to bring about the positive change that we're all talking about, all those pieces that you guys have mentioned. I really, that's what I'm hopeful for, is seeing more unity, more groups working together to achieve the things that we are looking for. So thank you.
Excellent. Karen, thank you so much. Amani, we've got you next.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Imani Scruggs. I'm a 4-H program coordinator for Ohio State Extension here in Cuyahoga County. And my hopes for the new administration, I guess a non-serious one would be that they don't embarrass and discredit our scientists on a national scale. And then in a more serious note, just that they put more of an emphasis on our at-risk and high-need populations and recognize that the more money that we put into these communities, the more equitable and the better our educational and STEM systems will be down the road.
Amani, thank you so much. Julie, so nice to see you.
Okay, hi, I just had to quickly unmute there. So yes, and it has been a while. So I'm glad to be able to have the opportunity to rejoin the group and hopefully be able to attend more meetings here in the future. In terms of what I'm hoping from the administration, it was really something that was voiced by Becky, and that is in terms of addressing what we have really seen come to light this year is just the gross inequities in education and access to resources that our students have. And then also, as someone said, a lot of the great things have already been said. The thought that really that this administration listens to those that are out in the field, whether it's the teachers, the administrators, the students, the parents, those that are actually down here doing the work and working with the students and can have meaningful input into educational policy and let that bubble up from the grassroots up to the administration rather than administration and coming down and just being forced and mandated on our communities and into our schools.
Thank you so much, Julie. Sarah.
Hi, thanks. So my name is Sarah Donovan. I'm a relatively new member of this group, and good to see Meilani. Hi, and Dr. Ackerman. I think we partnered a little bit at Case Western when I was working there earlier this year, so it's good to see you again too. So well, first of all, I do STEM education evaluation consulting, and my background is in informal STEM and a little bit in higher ed and STEM equity as well. I would say that I would like to echo the points that everyone's been making about STEM access and inequities in space. And also Karen's point about the importance of connecting and continuing to do this work of weaving together learning opportunities and working together and kind of amplifying the work that the community as a whole is doing in order to create more robust opportunities for our students.
Sarah, thank you so much and glad that you're here. And Sarah brings up a good point. Since there are new faces here, you know, and we're going to continue on with the introductions in a second, but since there are some new faces, one of the goals of NeoSTEM is to help and so that you guys kind of get to know each other. So don't hesitate to put your contact information in the chat, you know, or feel free to reach out to somebody whose work that you think may, you know, intersect with yours or that you want to learn more about. You know, feel free to go ahead and use the chat or use me and I'll connect you to each other. Crystal, I see you next.
Hello. Oops, that was so good. You all missed the best introduction ever. I was on mute, right?
Oh no.
Hey, I'll start over, right? I can say that since you didn't hear me. I have some new and old friends on here, so I'm excited to see some faces I have not seen since March. You all know what happened in March. The world exploded. Thanks to Meilani for reminding me about the meeting. For those of you who have not met me yet, I am Crystal Franklin, and I am the director for CS for Computer Science for Cleveland, housed at Cleveland State University. And what I do is work directly, well, one of the things I do is work directly with teachers and empower them and strengthen them and work to get them professional development and training and licensed to teach computer science so that Northeast Ohio and really all of Ohio is super awesome, hoping that what we do spreads across the nation and we are examples of what can happen in the CS space. What I hope to see being under the CS for All umbrella, I of course want that initiative to continue on to infinity if possible. So I am hoping that all the work that the last administration really pushed for CS for All continues and that they see the value and all of the work that we do and bigger than that and increasing computational skills for the students and just empowering our kids because what we all do is really for the kids. So we do a lot of work. So if you want to know what I do, I'll drop my email. If you're not familiar with CS for CLE, I would love to chat with you. So feel free to email me.
Great. Crystal, thank you so much. I'm glad that you're here. Meilani?
Hello, everyone. Good to see you on this snowy day. I'm Meilani Joseph, and I work at Case Western. I do STEM outreach for the university, and happy to see a lot of you that I know here on the call. I would like to see the new administration identify the root causes of the injustices and inequities that we're all talking about here, and call them out explicitly, and then use some innovative thinking on how to address them concretely. So not just talking, but actually doing the action, but naming it. So that's what I would like to see.
Great. Meilani, thank you so much. Joan.
Yeah, I'm muting myself. Hi, everybody. This is my first time at one of these meetings, so I'm glad to be here. I work at Lorain County Community College at our new Super Fab Lab, the Campana Center for Ideation and Invention. Right there, I do program and community outreach, primarily with youth from kindergarten through high school. We focus on STEAM education, and I'm excited to be a part of this. What I am hoping for the new administration is that they keep making really good choices and appointments and the people that they put in the positions that matter to all of us.
Thank you so much, Joan. I'm glad that you're here as well. Ruth.
Right. Thank you, Milani, for the reminder also. And it's good to really see all of our partners with STEAM. I mean, I'm from Warrensville City School District, but I am a science lifer, if you should say. My entire life, I've had a thrive or a love for science, all science. And when you think about the new administration, I would just hope that someone said it, that policy is put in place for sustainability, that we get a good run, and we, you have programs going on. I benefited from programming when I was in high school, almost 30 years ago. That was there and was sustained us, through, and then it was gone. So just sustainability, on an area that is so very important to all of our longevity and for our future scholars. So, thank you for the opportunity.
Ruth, thank you so much. There you are. Yeah, great. Thank you. Really appreciate that you're here. Robin?
Hello. I'm not going to put on my camera because I'm going to just tell you, I came in and just shoveled 12 inches of very heavy wet snow off the driveway. I'm pretty much a mess. But I didn't want to miss the call. So I'm fairly new to the group. I am with Ohio Invention League, and we present the Ohio Invention Convention to students all across the state. I just happen to live in the Cleveland area and am getting this beautiful snow globe today. But we have part of our team lives in Columbus and part in Cincinnati. So I was the lucky one that got the snow globe today. But Ohio Invention Convention is actually a year-round program. It's not just an event, but we provide professional development and help teachers to teach the invention process, so that kids go through that, and then it culminates with an event. They also, it's very transdisciplinary. They use all of their STEM skills, their English skills, because they do a presentation, a pitch at the end to pitch their invention that they have. So we work with students who are K through 12. So that's how I got initially involved with the group, and am so happy to get to know some of you. I think this is my second or third call, so I'm starting to recognize some of you, and loving to hear what you do. For our hope, or my hope for what we see with invention education, and part of that's from my teacher background. I would love to see some of the same exact things that have been said. Obviously, equity and access is huge, absolutely huge. And for us as well. I would also just love to see an overall revamping of the educational system. Back when I was teaching years ago, we got to do all the creative fun stuff that STEM schools typically do. And so often our general ed classrooms have to teach to the test now. And that's just so not what I think should be happening. I don't think that produces the best outcomes. So I would love to see a return to pre-testing days and kind of re-looking at the way in which we evaluate students in the big picture.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Really appreciate it. Sonia.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Connection today, but I am Sonia Pryor Jones. It's so good to see so many familiar faces. I'm wearing two hats today. I serve as the Chief Implementation Officer at the FAB Foundation. We're a global network that stewards about 2,000 FAB labs in over 120 countries worldwide. And with my local hat on, I'm the founder of Fab House, a new community-based Fab Lab and Maker in Residency program for the Glenville neighborhood. And what I'd like to see from this administration, I really agree with Robin. I'd love to see this administration be courageous. We are living in a very unique moment in time, and I would love us to take full advantage of that and not do business as usual, but instead really reinvent the world, specifically as it relates to education, community development, and economic mobility. So that's what I love to see.
Sonia, so glad that you're here, and thank you for your comments. Dick.
Find the magic buttons here. Yeah, I'm with the Ohio Technology Engineers Association. So I'm kind of just sort of eavesdropping in on you today. I've attended some of the ecosystems meetings at the works when they've had their annual sessions. Overall, the OTA is concerned with promoting STEM activities, design, problem solving, engineering events, etc., through elementary, through I guess into community college as well. And we do a number of natural robotics, channeling drones in schools. Within, except for this year, we do a 12-day, 10,000 square foot activity exhibit during the Ohio State Fair, where we invite any and all kind of STEM groups to come in and get engaged with the activities and share their programs and activities. Just pleased to be listening in.
Yeah. Thank you. Glad that you're here, Dick. And I think we've gotten everybody except for Jeremy Shore, who is a familiar face and voice to most of you. But Jimmy, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get rolling with the rest of the meeting.
Sure. I apologize that I'm a little bit late. This week is the big ed tech conference. If you're in teacher world, ISTE, it's normally in person somewhere. It's virtual, and I was moderating a panel that just ended. So I'm here now. I am Jeremy Shore. I do a lot of consulting for TIES and for other folks. I have been in education for 16 years prior to consulting for like the last 5 or so. So without my coronavirus / Ohio winter beard, I look even younger than I am, but I have been in the game for a while.
Jeremy, so glad that you're here. So thank you all for making the introductions and sharing some of your thoughts about what you hope the new administration will do for STEM, locally, statewide, and in our country. I think it was important that we spend a little time now. This is the last meeting of NeoSTEM ecosystem for 2020, and it's the last meeting before we officially launch the much talked about, much planned for redesign of the NeoSTEM ecosystem. So we do have, a packed remaining 35 minutes. And I wanted to just go over a couple of quick updates, and then we're going to get into our real work for today. In January, you'll be hearing, and I think I mentioned Veronica Gonzalez the last time that we talked, and I think she was on our last webinar. You'll be hearing from Veronica during our January meeting, and some others who will be helping guide us through the redesign of NeoSTEM. What we will be doing in this process is establishing the final operating plan for the NeoSTEM ecosystem, which will include, of course, governance and structures and operations, and the guiding vision and mission, and above all, our hope for that plan is that it's designed for equity and STEM for all. But while that redesign is happening, our work is not stopping of the NeoSTEM ecosystem. It will, I'm sure, change course, once we get through the redesign. But I wanted to just kind of recap a couple of quick updates about where we are right now. Wired, that program that, with support from many of you, we were able to launch in March, the first round of it. It's the project that pairs high school students with the owners of businesses who are primarily brick and mortar. And we found some funding to pay the students to coach the businesses about how to improve their online operations. So that first pilot of that program was so successful that we are right now getting ready to launch the second pilot. CASE has joined us in this second pilot, as has the city of East Cleveland, the Old Brooklyn CDC, CMSD, Nord Family Foundation, Martha Jennings Holden, and several other local, regional, and national marketing leaders are coming in for round 2 of this. The actual work will begin in January. We are still accepting student applications for another week. I will, after today's meeting, share with you the link to those, to the applications for the students. We have two actual pilots going, one with CASE, where we're focusing on the city of East Cleveland, and one with CMSD, where we're focusing on Old Brooklyn. So the students do need to be CMSD students or live in the city of East Cleveland. For one or the other. And also, in addition to seeking a few more student applications, we're also looking for any marketing experts that want to join us. We have some great folks. The marketing director for Goodyear Tire and Rubber is again volunteering for us. The head of Report for America nationally is joining us as a volunteer. So it's a really cool project and something that I think NeoSTEM, can be very proud of going forward. So, looking back since the pandemic, some of the things that NeoSTEM, I think, has accomplished is that these regular meetings, and we've been doing them at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, is that they really enabled many of you to meet each other and to forge some decent relationships and explore some possible partnerships. While I'm going through the litany of things, Remake Learning Days is up and running and still taking applications, by the way, for micro grants. We've got $250 that we can award to organizations in micro grants for organizations that want to share their learning in May. That application is on the NeoSTEM ecosystem website, and I'll share that after today's meeting as well. So over the last 4 or 5 meetings and through email with many people who are not on today's call, we've identified some of the priorities that should help guide NeoSTEM, at least for the immediate future. And that's where we wanted to dive in today. And that first priority that you and many of your colleagues who are not on here today identified is that you said that it's really critical that STEM opportunities be visible and relevant to students, families, and the entire community with an intentional focus on improving Black and Brown students' engagement with STEM. So we, some of you who were on last month's meeting and who have engaged with us through email, you may recall that we talked about that work can take a whole lot of different forms. That it can be a communications initiative with features of local STEM professionals and students with a focus on Black and Brown STEM professionals and students. It can be clearly identified and widely communicated STEM workforce pathways, including a concentration on some less familiar STEM career opportunities. One of you suggested that it could be widely communicated messaging about the relevance of STEM with a concentration on the importance of science. And then finally, several of you shared that it should be broadly shared messaging intended to dispel those fears about STEM, that I think are familiar to most of us. So we're going to use a tool today called Padlet and dive into this first question. So the first question, again, taken from the feedback that you've offered us, is who might we feature through a variety of public messaging vehicles to promote STEM? Are there any STEM professionals or students who come to mind? So in a second, I'm going to share my screen. And Angie has put the link to the Padlet in chat. If you guys could please click on that Padlet link, you will see that question there. And we'll spend about 5 minutes, if we can, collecting your thoughts on that first question.
Alyssa, I have a quick question here. Are you looking for individual names of people in the community, or like types of professionals, types of students, that type of thing?
Yeah, let's do both. Let's just kind of use this as a free-flowing brainstorm. If specific names come to mind, throw them on there. If different ideas about types of people come to mind, let's throw them on there. And then we'll, have this Padlet as sort of a guiding document.
Would it be redundant to name people that are already in this meeting?
No, do it. Mm-hmm. Not redundant at all. Oh, these are great ideas. As soon as the ideas start slowing down here, let's go ahead and dive into some of the comments that you've made on here. Jeremy, do you want to take over from here?
Sure. I need to flip back over to the who might we feature line. I see a lot there's kind of three categories, Alyssa, in this list. The first are specific organizations. The second are specific people. I see Andrea Fields in there just as an example. And the third are sort of categories of people. And I think, and this is just me, but I think it might be smart to either kind of hit all of those individually, or to think about ways to bundle a category, an individual, and an organization into a single message. So thinking about, Andrea, maybe Andrea is paired with the right board to talk about, the new competencies that are needed for careers in the region. And maybe they're also paired with students from one of the schools that Andrea has worked with, just as an example, to kind of get different perspectives in there. So I think that could be a way to go. What I'd be curious about as well, everyone who's kind of on here is, and I don't know the answer to this because I am new to Padlet myself. There's not a way to like. I was hoping there was a way to kind of like, but if you see something that's already up there, sorry. Yeah, there's a way to like the overall message, but the individual comments, I don't think there is. So what I'd like to offer is, I know that typically when I see a list like this, if I see something that I would say already up there, then I don't say it. I'm going to ask everybody who's listening to ignore that if that's what you normally do. And if you, even though it's going to become cluttered, that's okay. We'll deal with that. If you see something up there that you totally agree with, go ahead and put it up again, because that'll give us a little bit of a sense of kind of votes. Lots of you think this organization or this type of person should be featured.
Thank you, Jeremy. That's great.
It does not look like a lot of people are over to the other link yet. So if you haven't noticed, Angie has posted a second link in the chat that's to a different Padlet. And that gives you an opportunity to comment on some methods. I posted one comment on there, Alyssa, while we're waiting for other people to comment. Tim Ferriss, who is who's very cocky, but has a good interview podcast that I like sometimes. He has a series of questions he always asks his interviewees. And one of those questions is, if you could put one phrase on a billboard for everyone to see, what would that phrase be? And I think that might be an interesting way to think about that avenue, is not the right board, but rather if you're doing a piece on the right board, and we're focusing on the right board this month, and I keep using them because they're the first example, also have, Courtney or somebody ask them that same question and make that the billboard. What is the thing that they wish everyone knew or would think about? And then, down at the bottom, the right board. So I think that could be something interesting. People talking about the visibility as a way. I know Jan, our colleague Jan, always talks about buses because they reach a population that isn't always reached.
Right. As Jeremy mentioned, we'll take all of these comments that are in here and make some sense of them, and then share them with you with some kind of voting mechanism enabled. So this is just sort of the initial brainstorm to help guide us so that we can pair it back to you in an organized way, what you're saying here.
And as people are commenting, I think we need to give people to think and filter through. But if you've commented, these are all anonymous, so I can't really call on somebody. But if you commented something that either you're really kind of proud of the thought or you think it needs a little more explanation, go ahead and jump in, because I think we'd really love to hear the thought behind some of these if you're willing to share.
Exactly.
That never works. I always say it, Alyssa.
Amani,
I was just about to say the only person who ever jumps in is Amani.
I'm always here for you, Jeremy. I'm always here for you. So I did have a comment about the social media thing. I think it's terrific, but I've struggled in the past, at least with our own social media accounts. So I'll speak from a personal perspective or like an organizational perspective. Kids don't follow like OSU Extension on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. So like we promote things, yes, we're reaching the libraries they may go to a lot, or their schools or their community centers. And hopefully that gets like trickled down to the youth. But it's very rare that students are gonna follow our individual accounts. So how do we combat that or get students to follow our accounts more, or just make sure that the messages we're getting out are actually reaching youth? Because usually they're following like sports accounts or their friends or comedy accounts or meme accounts or whatever, but like very rarely are kids amped up to follow OSU Extension or like 4-H or any of those organizations. So yeah.
Alyssa, can we give away an Xbox Series X to followers? And I promise I won't enter. I think the you know what Amani's getting to, and what I'm also reading from the wide variety of ways that people are saying, Alyssa, what I'm taking from it is that maybe we don't want to really focus on any of these. If we do billboards, it is one great billboard location that changes. It's not 10 billboards. It's a bus. So that we can try to reach people from a whole bunch of different modalities. Kids are always the hardest. So I don't know what, I feel so old when I say this. I don't know, YouTubers, if we could get a famous YouTuber.
See, I'm on the other side. I think if you let the students take charge of it, do a challenge, do a follower challenge. How many, I don't have Snapchat and all this stuff, but I do have Facebook. How many likes can you get if you post your coolest, look what I'm doing post? So I think, yes, they will not follow me if it's just me, even though I think I'm super cool, but they do follow each other. So if you make it something that they would engage in and be proud of and say, look what I did. You can do app challenges, you can do post challenges, coolest slogan.
Yeah.
So I think if this pushed out by them, it will work. If it's pushed out by us, it's like following their parents.
And kind of related to that, Alyssa, of reaching those kids, I know that the big push lately, the Science Museum, Planet Money, the economics podcast, all have TikTok channels. They're TikTok feeds these days where they do quick 30-second sound bites of science, quick 30-second videos of economic explanations, and in a vying to reach some of those younger voices.
The quickest way, though, to get them off of those channels is for us to go on them and start marketing to them. Just saying. But I mean, I think we've got to do both. I absolutely agree that it's got to be, the kids marketing to each other. That's how we get kids into things too. But then, social media and buses and a good billboard and all of those are how we hit parents. So, I mean, it's got to be a combination there.
I agree. We've got that other ideas for sharing stories. If you know of an organization, even if you don't know how they did it, but if you know of an organization that's done a great job with outreach to youth in particular, but also outreach to parents of poverty, adults that are harder to reach, go ahead and just put that organization in there and say, hey, I don't know how they did it, but organization Y kind of figured this out, and we can reach out to them to see if they're willing to share a little bit of that secret sauce.
I just wanted to make a comment. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, very good. Just as a point of information, I suggested that the alumni of Indeed We Code would be an excellent group to reach out to do marketing. And of course, I get a phone call right now, but I'm ignoring the call. So for those who are not familiar with Indeed We Code is a coding program for African-American girls exclusively. And we now have girls who have not only graduated from high school, but we have a few that have graduated from college. And so I'm simply pointing that out as a way of responding to those people who wanted to focus on women and people of color.
Love that. Alyssa, you're muted.
I was going to say, Dr. Ackerman, that's an amazing point. And Dr. Ackerman introduced me to one of their recent college graduates who's kind of incredible. And I've been able to introduce her to others, but maybe that's a really good idea. And let's pursue that. Are we ready, Jeremy, do you think, to move on to kind of the big question here? Is it how do we make
I think
this
so.
effective?
And these links aren't going away right now or even post this meeting. So as we're having the next part of this conversation, or tonight when you're laying in bed and can't sleep and things pop in your head, that's what happens to me. Go ahead and go back to this link, bookmark it or whatever, and you can add stuff. We'll wait to collect and synthesize till tomorrow or the next day or something. So you've got to thing. So with
Perfect. So I think, are we on to the last question is, so let's say we do a really great
help
job.
make it
Let's
actionable.
say that
Jeremy,
Becky's laughing at us.
froze. We missed like the last 30 seconds of your soliloquy, I promise.
Yeah, I have you guys looked out the window? It's a disaster outside. I think my internet is being crushed by the snow. Is that a thing? So I was just gonna say, keep on trucking, keep adding things. But yes, Alyssa, let's move on to that next question.
Yeah, perfect. So the big thing that's really troubling to me is, let's say we do an absolutely great job of, telling inspiring stories, getting messaging out, involving people, students in helping spread this information and inspiring stories and so forth. Then what? What do we do next? How do we make it actionable? What are the things that we as a NeoSTEM ecosystem need to have in place? So that's that third Padlet. Can we collect some brainstorming on that right now? Can you see my screen on that?
Alyssa, I have another question. I think it's because I'm pretty new to the group, but I'm wondering if there's an overarching goal with this project that we're trying to do, or if there's like certain metrics as like an ecosystem we're trying to hit. Like, what are we working towards? What's the end goal? Because I think this feeds into that quite a bit for me.
Right, exactly. I think the end goal, as with all of our work, and it needs to be a little bit more defined than this, and I think that we'll do that in the next phase of this, is that the end goal is that we are improving visibility of STEM professions with an eye towards making them more achievable, accessible, allowing students to see themselves in STEM professions that they hadn't before. I think with all of our work, that's the big guiding goal there. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh. Are we on to the third Padlet? I'm having a few internet challenges where I'm not hearing everybody all the time right now.
Yeah, there are just a couple comments in there now, but they're longer. So I think people are still thinking and typing.
Okay. Oh, there we are.
Alyssa, I think one of the third comment that's on there is choosing some priorities and focusing, and you might want to speak to that, but I will as well. We agree. I'm not sure if it looks like it because we're trying to make sure that we're getting everybody's voice as part of that selection, but we agree. Part of the issue with NeoSTEM in the past, which has done great work, has been it's done great work in too many areas. The focus has been spread too thin.
Well, let me just say, can you hear me?
Yes, Patricia.
I can talk a lot faster than I can type. So let me just say that.
You talk, I'll type.
Very good. Lobbying the state legislature and the State Board of Education must become high priorities if we want to reach a wider audience and have that impact where it's going to make a difference. Just imagine what would have happened if digital literacy had been a graduation requirement pre-COVID-19. The disparities and all the things that have happened that were terrible would not be happening in the same way. And so I'm suggesting that the people who know what difference these various skills can make are the people who have to bite the bullet and re-educate the people that make the decisions that impact everyone. Nobody wants to do that work. It's not fun, it's not pretty, it's not glamorous. But if someone doesn't decide that we're going to take on the government structures that limit what it is that students learn in school, then we're always going to be in this patchwork quilt situation.
Dr. Ackerman, thank you so much. I mean, I think that a lot of people agree with, what you've just said, and that's certainly been a top of mind discussion among many. Okay, some really excellent comments coming in there. I see, and Jeremy, do you want to talk about some of them?
I do. I'm just pulling some of them up.
Yeah, the one that,
Do we lose you again, Alyssa?
no, I'm here, but I'm going in and out. The one that's really striking, there's several in here that I think are really incredible. The one, yes to comment number one, in the Why is STEM So White session this morning, the ideas of mapping community coverage for STEM programming and creating shared STEM calendars came up. And that's long been something that NeoSTEM is chipping away at. And we anticipate having an asset mapping platform hopefully ready in the first quarter of 2021 that will once and for all be able to do that, populating the map. And Jeremy knows this better than anybody, is going to be the big challenge that we as an organization will face.
I have a favorite on here too, Alyssa. It is the first comment. We've been talking a lot at the broader ecosystem, as particularly as we've been talking about these diversity and equity challenges and how to address them. That one thing that organizations have a tendency to do is sit in a room like this with a bunch of highly placed, highly educated people, and with the best of intentions, try to solve problems for people who aren't in this room. And so a big part of what we've got to do pretty soon here, I think, Alyssa, is focus on getting feedback from the actual people, the kids and the adults in the communities that we serve. How best to do that? I have no idea what the best way to do that is, but it's critical because we're right on some of the things we're all sitting here guessing, but we are also wrong on some things and missing some things altogether.
No doubt about that. I'm wondering if anybody else has any other comments on that or any of these other ideas that have surfaced today.
Can I comment on the family and community component? We have in Warrensville City School District, as I think about my introduction, I left a big part out. I actually work in the STEAM and STEM initiative in our district. And one of, I can say that our successes has come from involving our family liaison. And when we brought our family liaisons to the table, they brought a different voice, but a very impactful voice on how we did our STEM fairs and how we introduced STEM to our scholars. So I absolutely agree when you say, we got all the great voices in the rooms, but the greatest voice of all is the ones that we are in service to. So I definitely agree that, and I agree that in platforms like this, it does become important to invite the uncommon to the table, and not uncommon in a negative way, but not who we would think of when we think about our family liaisons in our district, or our media specialists, or anyone who is working directly with the community, is where you have your largest impact. Like, partner with our library across the street from us, the county library, and that was very impactful for us also. We even partnered with Sparks, the early childhood program. And they just bought another just another lens, but they bought the people, they brought the families to the table. So it just wasn't our scholars that we knew who would be interested or our scholars who we knew were engaged, but we was able to give opportunities to families who wouldn't necessarily would say, okay, let me go because they hadn't had the experience before. So with that being said, I do agree with families, community, and scholars being at the table.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that important, reminder too. Any other comments or thoughts?
Hi guys, it's Karen. I just wanted to say that I actually wrote that first comment that Jeremy was talking about before. And it's something that has come up a lot around here. And I was in a session with our Science and Technology Center conference last month. And we talked about how do we find out those needs, Jeremy, and how do we gather that information? And they said that in a lot of their experiences, the best ways are by holding small focus groups in the communities, by going into the organizations that we already know and work with and using those organizations as an in to invite people in. They trust those organizations. Holding small focus sessions and just literally asking them the question, what are your needs? What do you want from us? And they said that they have received some amazing answers, and that's what really helped them start on their community science programs, which have been so great. And I immediately thought of this group as a great way that we can do that here in Northeast Ohio.
I actually really like that as an idea, Karen. We did a little bit of that in Parma with an NSF grant that we had a year or so ago, and it was a very manageable size. Like I kind of cringe every time we talk about making this group bigger, or I think that's part of how we end up, really kind of diluting the message and getting off task. But if each of us were to find a place to hold one small focus group, and then bring all of that back from our communities, I think that's both really doable and is a great way to kind of get a cross section of people that we're working for and with.
Alyssa, I kind of related to that, not only for our own work, but for the broader community. Perhaps one of the things this group could do is create a great report on the region and on the needs of the region from the people in need, not from analysts or, people in offices. That report, I think, could not only be valuable to our work, but to people who are not involved with us at all.
No question. Absolutely no question. Karen, thank you so much for that suggestion. It's a really good one. It's a little bit like some of the work that we have done in Idaho, where we're helping build a statewide ecosystem, and also in New Orleans, where we did a series of very small focus conversations with on the ground organizations, asking them, what is it that they need? This is a really good idea to bring it here as well. Thank you.
I just want to underscore the point that for people who don't know what they don't know, they need to interact with people who can introduce them to what they don't know. We can't just expect people to tell us that they need what we have when they don't necessarily know what that is.
I just wanted to say also that while we're thinking about the equity piece, I don't want us to think about it just those poor people who don't have access to anything. But when I think about equity and racial justice and inclusion, for lack of a better word, I think about my own 16-year-old who's probably going to major in engineering. He has everything he'd ever need or want in his household, but yet he can take advantage of being exposed to all the professionals out there and to help guide him in his STEM journey. He most likely is going to do something STEM related, but he's also, I think there's many kids of color that fit into his category that are not on free and reduced lunch, but could also really benefit from the wonderful opportunities that we provide. So I just don't want us to get, when we think of, the under-resourced or whatever, it's not just that population, but it's young people who are just not traditionally represented in the STEM fields, including, someone like my kid. So I just wanted to keep that in mind.
It's all relative.
Okay, perfect. Oh, absolutely. You guys, we are a little bit over time, and one of the promises that we always made is that we would, start as close to on time and end as close to on time. So hope that all of you have a safe next month, and we will be in touch. We'll call all of this together and follow up in an email in the next week. So as Jeremy suggested, take your time if you have some other thoughts to add, and I'll share the other links that I mentioned earlier. So thank you all very much, and happy New Year.